All right, linguists, welcome. Today, we're jumping into the beautiful and fascinating world of the Wapichan language. It's spoken by only about 6,000 people in the savannas and forests of southern Guyana, which means it carries a really unique worldview within its very sounds and grammar. So let's get right into it. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of pronunciation and grammar, we've got to talk about why a language like this is so profoundly important. I mean, it's not just a collection of words, right? It's really the heartbeat of a culture.
Just think about that for a second. Imagine you're a little kid and your first day of school is in a language that isn't yours, with books filled with things you've literally never seen. This is the reality for Wapichan children. The disconnect is huge, and it really shines a light on a crucial battle, the fight to have their own language and culture respected in their own education. So, who are the Wapichan people? Well, they're an Amerindian people with this incredibly rich history in the Rupununi region of Guyana, and their language is part of the vast Arawakan family, which is one of the most widespread indigenous language families in all of South America. Every single word carries a piece of that deep, deep heritage.
Okay, so every language starts with its sounds, right? To really speak Wapichan, we've got to get familiar with its unique phonetic palette. So you look at this chart, and at first glance, a lot of it probably looks pretty familiar. You know, you see A, B, M, P, but then you start to look a little closer, and you spot some really cool, unique sounds. There's a Y vowel, these things called retroflex consonants, R and Z, and that little apostrophe, which is a glottal stop, just a quick catch in your throat. Let's break down the trickiest ones. First up, we've got this vowel, Y. Now, this is not the Y you're used to, like in the word yes. Nope. This is a high, unrounded vowel. Let's try this together. Make your mouth like you're about to say ooh, but instead of rounding your lips, pull them back into a big smile, like you're saying cheese. Ooh. You feel that? It's this sound that's kind of right between an ooh and an I. All right, next up are these two cool consonants, R and Z. They're what we call retroflex, and all that really means is curled back. So to make these sounds, you just gently curl the very tip of your tongue up and back, so it's touching the roof of your mouth, just behind your gums. It gives it this richer, rounder sound than what we have in English. Okay, so we've got the basic sounds down. Now for the fun part. How do we actually build words and sentences? This is where you really start to see the logic, and the whole worldview of the language start to come to life. One of the first big grammatical shifts you're going to notice is that Wapichan uses postpositions, not prepositions. What does that mean? Well, think of words like to or with. In English, they come before the noun, right? Preposition. In Wapichan, they come after, postposition. So instead of saying to Boa Vista, you'd say Boa Vista to. It might feel a little backwards at first, I get it, but it's super consistent once you get the hang of it. And building verbs? Oh, it is beautifully logical. It's like a simple recipe. You start with your root verb, like makun, which means to go. Then you just pop a little prefix on the front to show who's doing the action. Un for I, pu for you, wa for we. See, it's this really elegant system. Once you know a few prefixes and a few verb roots, you can literally start making your own sentences right away. Okay, now for a concept that is, honestly, it's one of my favorite features in any language. It's something that totally reveals a different way of seeing the world. We're talking about obligatorily possessed nouns. Now, what in the world does that mean? It means that some nouns are considered so deeply connected to something else, you literally can't say them on their own. So what kind of things can't exist by themselves? Well, it's all about relationship, all about connection. You can't just say footprint in Wapichan. You have to say whose footprint it is, a tapir's footprint or its footprint. It's the same for your arm, your mother, even your soul. The language itself defines these things by their connection to a bigger whole. How cool is that? And this quote just illustrates the whole idea perfectly. It points out the challenge and really the beauty of this feature. The language itself fights against the idea of unattached, independent parts. It reflects a world where everything is understood through its relationships, not as these separate, isolated things. All right, so we've got the sounds, we've got some grammar. We have the building blocks to actually start talking. So let's put this new knowledge to work and learn a few key phrases for your first conversation. Let's start with the absolute most important word in any language, right? A simple hello. The common way to say it is tutsi. Come on, try it with me. Tutsi. Excellent. Okay, now, if you want to ask someone their name, you would say Babuna Pin. Let's just break that down really quick. Babuna means what name, and pin is your. So, Babuna pin.
And to answer, you can say one and then just add your name. So for me, one ye, Joshua. See that? That one prefix we learned earlier means my, and ye means name. So you're literally just saying, my name, Joshua. Simple and elegant.
All right, pop quiz time. You've learned all the pieces for this one, I promise. Remember that root word for to go? And the prefix for you? Take a second, put them together. How would you ask, where are you going? Did you get Natim Paimakan? If you did, you nailed it. Natim is where, and Paimakan is our verb, to go, with that you prefix. Fantastic! You are already making complete, correct sentences in Wapichan. Great job. You know, learning these phrases is so much more than just memorizing words. When you speak a bit of Wapichan, you're not just communicating information. You're tapping into this deep cultural heritage, a whole territory of memory and spirit. And this powerful quote from the indigenous intellectual Daniel Munduruku, wow, it just captures what's really at stake here perfectly. For so many indigenous peoples, language is memory. And that memory, it's a form of resistance. It's a way of honoring the people who came before and making sure there's a future by refusing to let go of tradition. The great news is the effort to keep this memory, this language alive is really thriving. And you can continue your journey from here. There's the Quality Bilingual Education Program, which is creating school materials for Wapichan kids. There's the Wapishana Dictionary Project, and there have even been radio programs creating lessons. This work is happening right now, and it's so incredibly important. So, I'll leave you with this idea to chew on. Indigenous writers often talk about language as a territory, like a space you can inhabit, a space of memory and connection. So if a language is a territory, what worlds are we saving when we help it thrive? You know, when we work to protect a language like Wapichan, we're not just saving a list of words. We are helping to preserve an entire world, a completely unique way of understanding what it even means to be human. And that is a world worth saving for every single one of us.